Hi, my name is Christopher Moonlight, and I am the producer, writer, and director of The Quantum Terror. It's kind of a sci-fi horror movie, which I'm talking to you from the set of, and I want to talk to you a bit about how we wanted to kind of achieve the look of this film and what camera we used, what lenses we used. Not very extravagant, actually. We're shooting on a old Canon 7D crop sensor camera in a world of red dragons and black magic cinema cameras and even the C100 and the C300. It's not a filmmaker's ideal choice, but one of the things that I really loved about this camera was kind of the 7D was where my knowledge of filmmaking grew from in terms of the camera standpoint. I remember when the 7D came out, and it was kind of all the rage. It was crop sensor DSLR camera that was kind of, I guess, the videographer's equivalent of a 16mm camera. I really love kind of the old sci-fi and horror movies of the 70s, the 80s, but you know, this is the days of kind of grainier, grittier horror movies and sci-fi movies, and the 70s actually a pretty grainy, gritty camera. Really what it comes down to is who's behind the camera. I have a great cinematographer, Anthony Gutierrez, who you will actually hear from in this video. But you know, it's like if you were to hand Jimi Hendrix $100, you know, thrift shop guitar, that guy's still gonna shred on it. Whereas, you know, you hand a really beautiful, expensive, you know, $100,000 guitar to my 4-year-old, and you're still gonna get noise. So we really wanted to approach this movie with this camera as cinematographers with an artist's eye. So I really looked at movies like James Cameron's Aliens, where he was doing all sorts of camera tricks with film speed, turning the camera upside down, reversing the footage, to make the world that he was building look bigger and more impressive than what he actually had on set. You know, maybe it's not such a bad thing that I don't have an ultra high definition 4K or camera raw style camera that is going to see all the nuances of everything that we're doing, so we can focus on telling the story. I'm a big fan of these sci-fi and horror genre films, so I really have a feel for what makes them so compelling, both in terms of the script and how the camera moves and looks at the characters to help enhance that story and bring a new dimension to it. I did a lot of storyboarding after analyzing some of my favorite films: Aliens, The Exorcist, Silence of the Lambs is a big one for me, because what lens you use for what moment, what angle you shoot from, if the camera's moving, if it's not moving, all of these things matter. So let's talk a little bit about the lenses, because I think they're a very important part of the storytelling. So let's see what I've got here. I have the Canon 50mm lens. You'll hear people talk about these a lot. The 50mm looks like this. This is a shallow depth of field camera. The wider you open up the lens or bring the f-stop down, the shallower depth of field you have, but you're going to let in more light, so you have to compensate by adjusting your shutter speed and your ISO. But this is a very cool lens if you want to get in on someone's face very intensely. Next up, I have my Canon ultrasonic 28mm prime lens. This is also a really good lens. It's got a really nice stabilizer on it. I'm very pleased with the stabilizer on this lens, which can be Very important if you don't have your awesome Steadicam operator on any particular day of shooting. And that looks like this. This is the 28mm lens and what it looks like. As you can tell, it's also a wide lens. It kind of is giving you what you saw from my kit lens, but better quality. It has a nice f-stop. It's a 2.8 f-stop wide open. So I use this as a kind of a medium wide range lens, but I can also get very close on subjects with it, even closer than I can with 50mm or my 11-16, which just makes people look very distorted. So this is a very good run and gun lens for me. And then I have my Tokina. This is a 11-16mm lens. I really like this lens because it goes to f2.8. You can shoot nice and wide on this, which can make your subjects look crazy, or it can make nice wide shots in your enclosed set. But I'm also using this for shooting miniatures. There's a lot of miniatures on my film that are built to look exactly like the tunnels that you see around me. That's because there may be a giant monster coming down a tunnel, or there may be a massive flood of water coming down a tunnel. All things that I cannot do on my budget. So we build miniature tunnels. If you shoot them with a long lens with a shallow depth of field, you're only going to succeed in making your miniatures look more miniature. So if you shoot them with a nice wide lens and deep depth of field, you can fool your audience with the proper lighting and color grading into feeling like they are still in actual size tunnels. They won't be the wiser. You can keep going with your story. And that looks like this is what my 11-16mm lens looks like. You can see it's very wide. I can get a lot of my set, and the camera is only about that far from me. I could touch the lens if I just reached a little bit further. This is at its widest, and if I just kind of let's go in, you can see it distorts things a lot, although I'm probably out of focus. But there we go. That's when it zooms into 16mm, and you can see I've still got a lot of range. But this has been a very handy lens for filming the tunnel sequences. If I want to get a really wide, intense shot, or even get close on an actor who's supposed to be suffering from some sort of madness or mania. It's got some drawbacks. It's a little grainier. It's also got some vignette to it, and it's maybe doesn't handle darkness quite as well. It's going to be extremely handy in shooting our miniatures and making those look believable. All of these lenses have different functions, but they can be made to operate outside of those functions just as well. Where most people would tell you a 50mm lens is going to be for portraits, and a wide lens is going to be for that prairie or desert exterior, Ridley Scott's going to get like an 85mm lens, and he's going to shoot a wide shot with it. Play around with them. All these lenses can be used to handle all ranges of subject. I bought my lenses because of the nature of my film and the budget and the availability of the cast and crew. It behooved me to own the lenses. So these are not cinema lenses that I have. These are photographer lenses, which are very nice. So they ran me around $400 to $600 each. But it was very much worth it for me to own these lenses. They're mine forever. I don't have to worry about returning them by a certain date. And I can go back and reshoot. I can spend time shooting B-roll on my own. You know that you have so much money for your film, and how much of it are you going to spend on equipment, and how much are you going to spend on what you put in front of the camera. I generally find that people will fall so in love with gear that they don't have enough left over to put something very interesting in front of the camera, and therefore you have a substandard film. I actually talked to Harbinger Down director Alec Gillis and asked him if he had any recommendations for me. He referred me to his cinematographer, Benjamin Brown, who said, you know what, this is your first camera, you're learning how to use it. A 7D is a perfectly viable camera to shoot a little independent feature on. There's nothing wrong with it. And, you know, it could add to that down and dirty, gritty look of an 80s, early 90s horror movie that you want to achieve. The 7D obviously has a lot of weaknesses in comparison to other cameras today, but those weaknesses are all things that I can deal with. The crop sensor is not going to allow me to have as much coverage out of my lens as I could with a full sensor camera. I don't have the advantage of Camera Raw or 4K. Overall, it is a very strong camera. It's done very well in low light. It can give you a cinematic feel if you shoot with it correctly. I love how run and gun it is. Usually the reason to be using these high definition cameras, you have advantages of being able to punch in on your footage without losing quality. Or if you're doing effect shots that involve green screen, they give you a little more leeway with the color, which I would love to have, but they're not problems that are unworkable for me with the 7D. Well, I think with the ever-evolving market for cameras, you're never done researching them. So what I really chose to do was research how the shots I love in other movies were achieved, and spend a lot of time really understanding what makes for a beautiful shot. I sat down with storyboards, breaking down the script, creating concept art, so that when everyone got to the set on the day to shoot, we all understood what that image was going to be and how we were going to achieve it. And that image was going to be beautiful whether we shot it through a 7D or a, red cam. But if I had a red cam and I wasn't thinking about what was going to be in front of that camera and how I was going to present it, it wouldn't matter how good a quality my camera was. I'm very pleased with how this movie is turning out. We're still shooting, but I am definitely getting the look I want out of this camera. It's all coming together, and there's been plenty of times where we've been shooting and I've been looking at the monitor and, I just smiled to myself and go, yeah, this looks like a real movie. So, again, you may be looking at a big expensive camera that might be out of your range. And who knows, in the near future, the prices may come down on those, or something new might come out, rendering your decision obsolete. Forget about, what Hollywood's doing. Hollywood's got hundreds of millions of dollars. Money doesn't tell a story. Money gives you resources to tell a story, but you are completely capable of telling a story with a camera and a microphone and a little bit of set dressing, and whether it be some friends or some up-and-coming professionals that are willing to work on very low budget, like on my film, you can do this.
Achieving, well, it wasn't so much my vision, it was the visions that kind of came from Christopher's concept movie posters and pictures that he had been posting about the quantum terror. So that sort of invoked a vision in me what he was trying to accomplish in camera. So that was my goal, was to try to match what he was doing conceptually. And it's a completely different look. It's, it's sci-fi, it's an alternate reality, it's mind point of view from someone. There's a lot of different things that go into that psychologically, and when you're jumping through quantum physics. Which is kind of cool. It's something that I had not done before. Plus all the practical effects and miniatures that are involved with it, and trying to make them look as realistic as possible as we can with the restrictions that we have, which were, budget sets, things like that. So there's a lot of movies in the future that I'm hoping to do really soon, and this is like an intricate part of the stuff that I want to do. So understanding his vision and accomplishing it as much as possible is like the first step to doing what I want to do also. Again, it was trying to achieve this look, and researching it came from, looking at a lot of his artwork, which is really, really weird stuff. It's very cool. So looking at a lot of that stuff, and then realizing, we have, our Zeiss 85 millimeter with, 1.4. We got a Tokina. We got some 50 millimeters that are really nice lenses that give these great depth of fields. And, we're limited with the lighting that we have. It's just a couple of soft boxes. Today I was lucky. I got some Kinos. Maybe a 1K, so you might be able to incorporate them. So with, it's just taking really what we have, applying it as best as we can in camera to get that vision, and then from that point on, it's all Christopher fixing everything I did wrong in post. So, it's probably wouldn't have been my camera of choice, but because we're shooting over an extended period of time on weekends, I'm from Dallas. Everyone else is from Houston, Austin area. So it's like every couple of weeks we get, or once a month, every weekend, we get together to shoot this. So renting a camera such as a C300, maybe a Red or something like that, is just out of budget. So, he owned a 7D. It was a camera that he had. I had some good lenses, capturing really good audio, and then the rest is all, done in post. So that was what we had in our hands to accomplish that look, and we're just trying to make the best of it as we can, especially with the miniatures. I'm very eager to try to make miniatures and forced perspective with lenses and the lenses that we have. I'm really eager to try and see how that's going to turn out. Aside from Christopher's storyboards and his artwork, I'm not one to really consult another DP or another filmmaker about how they achieve the look. Just mostly because I'm not intimate enough to know other filmmakers like that, to say, hey, how did you accomplish that look? I think clearly if there's something that I'm unable to do in camera, then I would probably be better off as a DP hiring a camera operator who knew how to do that. I don't know. I'm not afraid to say it, but there's a lot of stuff I don't know how to do in camera, but I quickly figure it out and make it work. And research is just an accumulation of what I've done over the last 25 years. Strengths are Chris owns it, so that keeps costs down. It's small, it's compact. The sets that he's built inside his garage are really small and compact, so it's perfect for that. Some of the drawbacks is, it's not a cinema camera. Having to balance, a DSLR on a Steadicam, I have to add extra weight, things like that. But, it does the trick for the budget that we have, and, how we're doing things here. It's definitely an independent film, but, it works. And if it works, don't complain. My personal lens package I have with me is I have some Zeiss primes. I have an 85, a 50, and a 25. Most of the camera operators I know that I shoot with have a 50 millimeter of their own or some stock lens. My Zeiss lenses, I really got lucky. I bought a filmmaker package from a big B&H, and although I hate saying their name, I bought a film package from them that included these lenses. So I got really lucky because they were inexpensive, and you know, if you were to go out and buy them separately, it would add up to quite a bit of money. But these are really good lenses, really nice lenses for filmmaking. So add it to any DSLR, add it to a C100, C300, add it to any Sony camera or any Panasonic camera, and it changes, it adds more of a film look to it, which is, you know, a little bit closer to maybe like an Alexa or something Blackmagic, you know, adding its own warmth. And that sort of takes it a step up from stock DSLR lenses.